on your spare time when you're not in school or with a school-related activity?
Well, I shoot on my own time, 357 Magnums out in various, sometimes out in Pennsylvania and in a skeet shooting range and rifle range in, I think it's North Royalton.
Babysit and read.
Well, I do some rock climbing down at North Park, and there are the ravines down there, and I have a rope, and what I do is I go down there and climb.
Most of the time I watch TV or try to write letters because I like to write.
Well, sometimes I go swimming I used to go swimming at Thornton, but now I go swimming at Woodbury for open swims and things like that. I go to the movies once in a while, I go shopping with my mother, and I sew.
What do you do on your spare time that's not related with school?
Generally, I work with photography, take pictures, and I'm presently working with the Godspell production at St. Dominic's Church.
Go see friends, go with friends, places, Randall Mall.
Well, usually I go to the movies or I go to the library, ride my bicycle, or watch television or something.
Play basketball, talk to people, have fun.
I program computers.
Usually we just like cruise around or we go to a couple concerts when something's good coming around.
Well, I read a lot, and sometimes I go out and hang out with friends. Just have a good time.
Go to movies, bum around with the friends.
Go up to Randall. Last week we went and we went to West Side and we go-karted. And sometimes we go and we organize our own football games.
There's a line that runs, "Where did you go out? What did you do? Nothing." But that's not true in Shaker Heights in the main. As you heard in a few selected comments from students at Shaker High School, our youth are engaged in a wide range of activities. They've been involved in activities centering around their school, their neighborhoods, their friends, and families. But what about facilities for youth in Shaker Heights? Or about activities which may not be widely publicized or which may not appeal to just everyone? What kind of activities, for example, are provided by the Shaker Recreation Board? Dick Murray tells us about them.
It's always a tough age when you reach that kind of junior high, senior high age. You get the feeling that you kind of want to be guided by the establishment, but you really don't want them to know that, I guess. At least that was my feeling when I grew up through those years. It's always a very, very difficult age to program. They're so busy with other types of activities that they seem to enjoy, whether it's just getting together with friends and chatting or playing sports or involved in chess clubs or whatever other activities that they have. It's always difficult. It seems like they're probably the hardest thing to do is to find a time when a group of kids can get together, because there's just so many activities. They have dentist appointments and other things that that we as adults have to do too. So it's always very difficult, but we're always in there trying to do something. What we try and do is line up at least one special type of activity, whether it's a DJ spinning records or a band playing. Kids have expressed some interest in some contemporary type movies. I have some ideas that I'd like to explore with some of the kids, maybe sometime this fall. And we usually have a games room area open that they can play knock hockey or bumper pool or a few table games like this. And the kids seem to enjoy it. We have had as many as about 200 kids show up, and we've had as few as about 90. So it's, it hits quite a number of them, and our happy medium's been around 150.
Aside from the well and other activities provided by the Recreation Board and described by Dick Murray, there are other things for youth to do. Joe Rock is trained in clinical psychology. He runs the drop-in center at Christ Episcopal Church.
Okay, in this facility, we have still running our drop-in center, which has been going on for about 8 years now, and that offers junior high school and high school students in Shaker Heights the opportunity to get together in an informal kind of a setting, either discuss problems they have, interests, issues they're concerned about, and helps them familiarize them with the youth center in case they want some other kinds of services. That runs on Tuesday evenings now. We also offer individual counseling, family counseling, a variety of different kinds of group counseling, much of which takes place here in the youth center, but we're going more and more into the Shaker secondary schools to try to get to the kids who wouldn't be coming up here. We do some group work during the days. We offer programs for parents of adolescents in the evenings around a variety of issues around parenting adolescents. And we also do a lot of what we call consultation and education work, which is work in the schools, speaking to classes on specific topics relevant to mental health, drug abuse, so forth, and consulting with teachers, administrators regarding particular kids.
Do you feel there's much need for that sort of thing here in this community?
I feel there is. I think that, in a sense, Shaker has probably more services, social services, than a lot of other areas of Greater Cleveland. However, the schools in any area can't possibly hope to offer all the services in terms of counseling needs that the city needs. And they've been very cooperative in working with us with certain kids, or referring to us as we refer to them. I think every city could use a kind of an alternative agency. When you're working with any kind of clientele, an important thing is developing a trusting relationship. And in most situations, adolescents tend to view adults as adversaries. And unless you can convince them that you are indeed working for them and not for their parents, it makes your job a whole lot more difficult. And I think that this is probably the greatest thing we have to offer to the community, is this kind of aura of an alternative agency. So I think that there are a lot of people in Shaker who are putting a lot of effort in developing programs for kids, for adolescents and younger kids. The problem is, I think a lot of the programs seem to hit kids who are already in the mainstream, kids who have a lot of other interests. Like the Shaker Recreation Board has a tremendous variety of programs, and they hit an awful lot of kids with those programs. However, again, they're not alternative kinds of things. There are some kids who aren't into athletic kinds of programs, other kids who aren't into academic programs. They just maybe need a place to hang out. I guess what I think is needed is an unstructured kind of a setting where the kids can just go and relax under supervision, which is not restrictive but is still strict enough, so that they'd feel comfortable with each other there. They wouldn't feel like they were being overly scrutinized, yet they wouldn't feel like they had to go there to do something, because there are kids who haven't developed a lot of skills and are uncomfortable doing things around other people, and would just like to go and socialize. And I think that that's a gap that's certainly not unique to Shaker. But it is, I think, a need, and I don't know how exactly it could be met unless a private entrepreneur decided that it would be a money-making proposition, and I think it probably could be.
I don't know how successful that would be.
Well, would you go there if it was?
I'd go there to see what it was like at first, and then try it out and see what it was, see if everybody else went there and if it was any good.
Yeah, I think that would be very nice. Yeah, and I like to see more blacks and whites uniting more, because it's not, they really don't unite as much, it's like they should. I think it should be more of that.
Now, if Shaker provide such a structured recreational center, such as like a youth center, would you go there?
I think I would, if maybe enough people came. I've been to some coffee houses, and I didn't like them because there are not enough people there. They were just, it was so limited, it felt like.
Do you think it's needed?
Yeah, I do. I really do.
Is there anything like you'd like to see in it?
Let me see. I'd like to see more of a more things to do. It seems like every time they have a center or something, there's a band or they just center on one thing. It's not it's not open to more things. You know what I mean? More different things.
I think like mostly what Shaker has now is pretty interesting, so I think I would attend.
Well, I think so. It depends on what the basis of the thing is. If they're going to be like super strict about stuff, or if they're going to let some, be lenient to an extent, let you do what you want.
If Shaker Heights did provide a structured center, such as a youth center, would you go there?
I don't think so, because I just rather do things with my friends.
We have worked with the rec board in opening up our basement, which there is a youth center down there. That is going to continue and probably start up in October the 1st or around there. The problem is that if you have 200 kids that show up, our basement is not that large. So that's one facility that I know that is in operation for at least the second and fourth Fridays. But you have an overcrowding phenomenon that goes on down there, because you get 200 kids down in there with a band, and that is
quite a few young people.
Yeah. But they do respond to things that are open for them like that. I mean, the response down there, varying from 125 to 200 kids a night, that's open, and it has been run by the youth.
Well, they learn responsibility this way in planning their own programming. I think sometimes, we forget that youth have a great deal of willingness and ability to plan their own programs, and we ought to allow them to do this, to do the planning, to do the organization. If they fail, they fail, but we always learn through failure too, and so do young people. And this type of thing, I think, would be an encouraging thing for the whole city of Shaker if they even had a youth committee that would work in the city itself, where they'd look at all their needs and take young people through the process of analyzing their own needs, of the needs of the community, and then going ahead and planning a goal and carrying it out and putting it together and getting the right kind of support for a program that they feel they need. Too often, adults will tell young people what they need, and that's not always the way it should be. And I think it's a combination of listening adults working with young people.
I think kids in Shaker Heights probably manifest problems very similar to those of kids in Cleveland Heights, Beechwood, Orange, adjoining communities. I think in terms of volume, they probably have no more than or possibly fewer than kids from the inner city. They certainly differ in nature. Whenever you're talking about a different kind of socioeconomic grouping, they're going to manifest different kinds of problems. But you're always going to have a considerable segment of the population is manifesting relatively severe problems, others who have some mild problems. And I think adolescence is a very high-risk period for these kinds of problems. It's a very difficult period of development, human development. And so you're going to find very few areas where kids don't have a lot of problems. If I had to pick out a typical problem, it would be an adolescent in his mid-teens starting to experiment with drugs or experimenting regularly with drugs, confused, having difficulty at school, possibly involved with the law for relatively minor offenses, just sort of groping around for something to do. That, I think, is where the youth center has been most effective over the years in terms of our group kinds of activities. Those are the kinds of problems that are so common to adolescents, not necessarily drug use, but just a confusion aspect, that when they get together with other kids, they realize that, hey, I'm not alone in this kind of problem. It's not an insoluble problem. I might grow out of it, particularly if they're with older kids. And we've had very good success. There are some kids who've graduated fairly recently from Shaker who I think have really turned themselves around, and I'm sure they've done a lot of it themselves. I don't want to overestimate our contribution, but I think just having a place they could come to talk about some of this stuff, a relatively minimal kind of an intervention, is often very effective in this kind of situation. Perhaps a less typical, but still an example that's illustrative of the kinds of things we get might be a situation I encountered where there's a kid who had a very bad test anxiety to the point of almost being a phobia. And he just avoided test situations, managed to get himself sick or be somewhere else or have an excused absence to be somewhere where he knew he was being in a test situation. And you know, that was a kind of a problem that is more amenable to an individual counseling kind of a setting, getting the kid more comfortable in the testing situation, discovering what it is that's creating the anxiety. Turned out he had moved from another school district and so forth, and there were a lot of things that were tangential to the testing situation that were still creating anxiety for the kid. Those kinds of problems are the things we encounter. We get a lot of referrals from administrators at the 3 secondary schools in Shaker for kids who are manifesting problems at school of one kind or another.
Franny has been working with a group on peer counseling over at St. Paul's, and she can fill us in on that.
We trained last spring, or last winter and spring, for 15 weeks, a group of 50 young people. They were young people from Shaker Heights, from Cleveland Heights, and other university schools, private schools, public schools. And the process, or peer counseling, is a process of training young people to counsel one another in the various areas of problems that they have. And the way we did this, we wrote the curriculum as we went along, I must admit. And we asked the young people, the very first night they were there in January, list some of the problems that you feel are important to you at this moment in history. And we came up with a list of about 45, and then we narrowed that down to things like alcohol and drugs, chemical dependency, suicide, and depression, depression being a really vivid kind of thing that young people have to work through. Human sexuality. What do I do if I know a kid who's going to run away? What do I tell him? Where do I get some help for him? All of the kinds of problems that young people face today, we tried to help them in every individual session to learn to go for the right resources in the community, to learn to know people firsthand. For instance, we had a person from the Suicide Prevention Bureau come in and talk with the kids and sit on the floor and say, you know, these are some of the things you look for when a person really feels depressed. These are the signs that you look for, and this is where you can get help. We also train the young people. The second phase of the program is that you train them in how to counsel one another. Now, we're not trying to turn out really super counselors here, and I never want people to feel we're doing that. But there are ways to train them to listen to one another creatively, to ask the right kinds of questions of another human being, where they can help other people sort out the alternatives that they have to choose from. And sometimes young people need just this kind of attention. They don't always get it at home. They don't always get it in school. They need and will listen to their own peer group more so at any other time in their life of development. And with this, we train them in counseling skills every night. We bring in some of the key resource people in the community for the different problem areas that they're facing. And hopefully, in these two methods, we'll train them to minister one to another, because that's really where it's at. Kids pick up more information from each other than they normally do from parents or from other areas of life. One thing we forgot to mention, and that was the whole area of work camps. There are possibilities for young people to take part in service work camp areas, such as those that are held in Kentucky, near the area of Hazard, Kentucky. That's a city in the fullest sense of the word, and we work up in the mountains there. This is for 2 weeks during the summertime, but young people work during the year to earn money to go to this, and they are able to earn the entire amount that is needed to pay for their way in the work camps. They pay to work, a very strange kind of concept. We also have a work camp that goes to Wyoming, and they work there for a month in 2 different parts, one on an Arapaho Indian reservation, and the other one at the State Training School for the Mentally Handicapped. And they're there for 1 month of July, and then they can bring those skills back here and work the rest of the year with the mentally retardation programs in the whole Cleveland area here. Then the other one we have is one that goes to Haiti. That goes in the middle of the year, and they work in one of the a poverty area of the Western Hemisphere, one of the poorest in the Western Hemisphere, and they work in Grace Children's Hospital in Haiti. These are all possibilities now, and we can make this happen for young people if they would like to choose to do this. Another one is in Great Britain and in other parts of the world. They can go either as a group with us, or if they're older, over 18, they can go 2 or 3 together and work in service areas in Great Britain, Scotland, and Ireland. Even in the area of Belfast, we've had groups that have gone there and worked in reconciliation camps with Catholic and Protestant children. And all of these kinds of opportunities help young people to work at career orientation. And some youngsters have gone in these work camps and have come back and decided, this is what I'm going to do with my life. And it has been a real remarkable turnaround for them in what they've chosen to do.
Now these are church activities, are they not?
No, these are open to all young people,
Yeah.
at least out of St. Paul's, and Torch, which is
Right.
Teen Outreach for Christian Help. It will take any young person, no matter what their
I
background.
think both of our youth
all of
groups
these, yes.
are really something that is not open only to members of, the
Right.
particular church.
Right.
Because of, as I said earlier, youth knows no boundaries for really the concept of a church, because they cross over. I mean, they're with friends all the time, rather than, I go to this particular church and you go to that particular church, and never the twain shall meet. Because they're always flowing in and out, regardless of areas, regardless of religion.
The churches have much to learn about this,
Oh,
If
yeah.
we could only train adults in churches to believe this, that we aren't sectioning off children for our own little denominations, we'd be far better off in youth work, I think,
Yeah.
sometimes, because young people do not operate that way.
I would like to see some sort of task force
Geared
developed,
together to work together.
composed of leaders of the city, churches, youth workers, and the youth themselves, to really sort out what is available and what the needs are. And I think that can be done.
The idea of a youth office, some sort of coordinating agency for youth activities, is one that has been discussed in the city. There is no doubt that most activities for teenagers in Shaker Heights revolve around the established institutions, the recreation board, churches, and the schools. The old malt shop on the corner died with Fonzie and the 50s. But lest you think there's nothing to do in Shaker Heights, just remember this: kids will always find something.
Well, they can go hang out at Master Pizza. It's on Chagrin. Or we can go to the movies, The Colony, or we can go to Vogue and people's houses.
We go out shopping to the mall and the shopping center, Van Aken.
Now, is there any place where your friends can go and just hang out?
Generally up at Van Aken near the Vogue or Draggers, around that area, or at our gang or something.
To the playground.
Anywhere else?
No.
Yeah, I'm sure there's lots of places around Shaker. You go down the Bicycle Jungle, Nature Center, lots of places.
Let me see. Some of us hang around up at our gang too, except that's usually a college crowd, bigger people. But, you can hang around for a while over there. No hassle.
Well, in the summer there was Thornton, but not anymore because it's
Now,
closed.
with your friends, is there any place where you can go and just hang out?
Well, up until it got messed up, there was Ludlow Playground. We have a mini park up the street from my house, and
Well, if not, just going over to someone else's house, I guess not really much of a place.
We go up to Shaker Square. There's a new ice cream parlor up there called Plum, and a lot of our friends work up there, so that's where we go.
Is there any place that you can go in Shaker Heights with your friends just to hang out?
The Duck Pond, Shaker Lakes.
Well, sometimes in my house, what we do is we cook a lot, we cook a lot and have a lot of fun cooking and stuff like that. That's about it.
Now, so there is really no place that Shaker Heights has to.
Oh yeah, sure. There's a lot of places. Well, I think they have the coffee house here, and they have the coffee house, and they used to have a dance across the street from me. I don't know the name of it. It's a Christian church, and they have a lot of dances here. Yeah.
Well, there's Thornton. During the winter, they have the skating rink, and during the summer, they had the swimming pool and the team nights.
We go to Byron to play football in the field sometimes, and around here we go to Thornton. Sometimes we used to go to Thornton to skate, but not so much anymore because we used to do that in 8th grade.
Sometimes we play ultimate frisbee.
Ultimate, not alternate.
Ultimate Frisbee notwithstanding, there are facilities in Shaker Heights for junior and senior high school age levels. Perhaps the most difficult factor in programming activities for such youngsters is the extreme swing between total independence of action and total dependence on peer group that is found during these years. When it's all said and done, the range of activities for young people in Shaker Heights is as unlimited as their imagination. There are church activities, as we have heard, and there's counseling for the troubled and their parents. But as for a place to hang out, well, if you don't like pizza or ice cream and hamburger and have an unlimited budget for an unbroken diet of the same, you'd better let that imagination get to work. Thanks for watching Shaker Life. I'm Douglas Drake. Good night.